Are you fit to play?
I'm not. I'm beginning to wonder. I'm actually beginning to wonder.
know.
I'm kind of weaving a little bit, and I am kind of ready. I'm not sure how much good play we'll get today. We'll do some things, kind of feel our way into this. Besides, the hive is tricky. I don't want to do just bug alien stereotypes entirely.
Right.
I mean, certainly working with that is one thing, but I want to work with it. I mean, the last thing we need is, I mean, we want to do something. I want to do something with this material we have. So,
Right.
Don't worry, because if you say bug alien stereotypes, I draw a blank.
okay.
So we are fine.
Okay.
No, they are definitely more than, I mean, they're buggy, but I always imagine them kind of like any other society, except, they've got an exoskeleton and stuff like that. But yeah, they probably have all sorts of stuff going on there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was thinking too, was that to the other species, the hive seems like this monolithic swarm that really doesn't have any, like, you might remember that some of the aliens at the peace conference basically were kind of wondering why the hive were even there. I mean, they were just sort of an ecological scourge as far as they were concerned. So within the hive, though, within the hive, I can definitely see that there's a lot more individuality and a lot more nuances than anyone realizes. Although, that whole thing, we don't really know how. We're going to find out, I guess. How, I mean, Hiver, as we've met him, was an old protect, annihilate, elite kind of character. So being sort of super close to the matriarch and super close to policy, I'm just kind of thinking that we don't really know, what it's like for other hive people. I mean, Hiver came off as pretty single-minded and at least to start, but who knows what the rest are like. Okay, so
you know what? It could be like, from the outside, this is what Hiver is like. Kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched any. They've done this a few times, like in cartoons and in movies, where like they'll show like the alien, and the alien's just like. But when they show it from the alien's point of view, he's like, "Hello, my good fellow."
Exactly. Right.
I am such a. You know what I mean? So it's like, to the outside world, Hiver is Hiver, but when Hiver's talking to other Hivers, it's completely different,
right,
because there's so much more nuance there.
Right, they have opinions and whatever.
Right.
So, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, and I don't want to explain. I want to just play. So
okay.
the
are
main,
you up to it today, or do we want to?
I'm trying to like oxygenate or something, because I am really tired.
Right.
So I mean, it has been all game theory and game practice for 48 hours solid. So
yeah, that's you went old school, man. That's how we used to get down in the 80s. When I was a kid.
We aren't that young again. What about 1 hour? Try.
I'm all for it. Let's go right ahead. And what I want to do is to start with I want to start with a world which is sort of the one last mulch world in the current galactic peace. I mean, do I understand? I think you told me that the whole idea was that the hive was not going to be quite so was going to be interested in sort of mutual mulching, right? To say, okay, well, here we are and here you are. Now, how are we going to mulch what we got here together, right?
Right. Well, yeah,
So,
they've
and
as
so,
opposed to just the consumer
right.
economy, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, now we've got to be a little bit more eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to, consume and move as much. So what do we do now?
Right.
It's like
Well, this
let's
is
get some
this is the
neighbors.
case where the okay. Let's just go straight to a planet that I have in mind. And this planet is a, a a seething um, jungle of ecosystems, whether it's dry, rocky highlands or actual literal jungles or anything of the kind. But each one is more savage than the last. Each one is more extreme. So take an extreme environment with high rocky mountains, and now it is everything about it is more kind of science fiction dangerous than it is on Earth. The deserts are the acidic, right? The sand will corrode you. The mountains are impassable. They're full of storms, and so on. Just kind of think of the place as sort of turned up to the maximum for environmental uh, intensity at the edge of hyper tolerance, right? So, um, in the past, the whole idea would have been to hit that planet hard and level it effectively. Find a place, make it flat, live on it. Now broaden. Just keep making it flat, keep
Right.
flattening your way around this place, and sooner or later, the resources will be used and repurposed, and the place will be properly fit for the hive. But this time, something else is happening. The reason that this is partly the galactic peace. The idea being other species may well want to utilize this planet too, so let's not ruin it, right? But so the main issue is to establish the beginnings of a colony there. And we therefore find various hivers, but most particularly Hita, whose job is to gather data and to um, survey um, a continent, a whole continent for exactly that continent's yours. To survey this whole continent to try to establish a viable hive that isn't based on just leveling the ecosystem. So it's kind of a new assignment. The idea that you're trying to find a place where a hive could colonize and interact with the environment there. To your knowledge, there are no technological species present. This is a harsh world without Scrang living on it or something like that, or people equivalents of its own. Um, so with that whole setup, okay, yes, I was thinking about the picture that we saw of Hita, scrambling around on the mountainsides in the Martian landscape, and here we are in a similar environment, except for the low, hilly Martian environment. We now are talking about an environment that is almost entirely vertical, and full of winds and savage sleet storms that scour the stones clean, um, and whether there are whether the durable mountains themselves could offer shelter enough so that they could perhaps a hive could be dug out or anything of the kind. In the orbit is a ship, which is mostly automated or serviced by very sort of basic hivers whose job is kind of, I fly ship. And the precious cargo, however, of a not yet fully developed in metamorphosis in pupae broodmother, and a whole bunch of unhatched. Um, so Renee, I don't know if the way you described your character was certainly your character was already hatched. So the question is whether you're sort of the first wave of the hatchlings that have begun, or do you want to get hatched in play? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, whatever works. I could be, hatching right now and coming out, or I could be just, youngish, still get that new hive smell. Whatever works for the story. I'll go with it.
It just seemed like if we're gonna play a hatchling, it'd be fun if you hatch.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right. So in that case, the to Hita's knowledge, all is well. And to the knowledge of the currently in repair after a very, very rigorous and assignment, especially because we're dealing with an aging biology and perhaps just a few too many replacements of too many warlike parts over the years, where we see our good friend Hiver in the nose of the ship, but very much in a medical state. Basically, you've been kind of, I don't know,
right,
you're kind of dormant while all the screws are getting tightened, and all that, right, and regenerative technology is being applied to your limbs and stuff like that. It's, who knows how many more of these kind of reboots you've got left in you.
Right.
So I'm just looking at your paragraph. Hiver is old.
That's right.
And
it's
right.
Well, it's going to get to the point that it'll become an existential thing. Like, how many pieces of Hiver can you replace before Hiver is no longer Hiver?
Well, that's part of it, and another thing too is that the capacity. Yeah, how many you need a living bug. I'm going to say that the bug technology doesn't really do robots. Robots are toasters, right? So there's no like robot bug. There's no robot hivers. So therefore, yeah, you're right. I mean, after a bit, you're kind of like, well, there isn't anything left of the dude.
Right.
Let's macerate, let's macerate the squishy parts and repurpose, and redistribute the metal parts. So in this case, you're in this ship, in the nose of the ship is where this medical facility is, and it is here that the automated systems, the familiar technology, perhaps with a technician or two, is fixing Hiver up. But you are in a dormant state, just as Hatch is currently in a not quite born state, not quite hatched state. So the two of you, it's just so nice and peaceful, isn't it? It's just so nice and peaceful, both of you. And as Hita is just beginning, to work through the process of data taking and stuff like that. So maybe we should just enjoy the peace, quiet sense of purpose, and whole um, the wonderful sensations all of you are having, especially nothing is threatening you. There are no problems.
Sounds so nice.
Yeah, this is great.
Just map out the area and start here.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's right.
so that's basically when the ship loses orbit.
Well, we need to find it.
Okay, you tell me if and how I'm connected to the ship.
That's
I
right.
want to do my job.
Right.
Please let me be undisturbed.
Mhm. Well, the primary issue is that you can communicate with the ship on a periodic basis,
Good.
but you're not in constant communication. Why would they bother? You're just out there to do your job and get your data, right? We're not going to.
Yeah. Good.
Transmitting it transmitting what you get is more important than talking to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Good.
the I do rather like it. The actual word in English is deorbit. Actually, NASA came up with that at some point or another. Here comes Skylab. What do we call it? I guess we call it deorbiting.
It deorbited across like the northern hemisphere. Skylab.
And anyway, down it comes. The ship itself is wrenched and battered, as it begins to enter the atmosphere, and the various hivers who are in charge of flying it, or would have disgorged the colony pod properly, sooner or later, are now obviously very disoriented, and the first thing Hiver knows up there in the nose is that you're suddenly conscious, and things do seem very wrong. For one thing, it's clear to you that the little processes that you were subject to were not fully completed, so you don't feel as good as you usually do after these.
Right.
And second, the ship is all wrong, right? Obviously, it's it's
right.
It's not. I don't think that the hivers worry about gravity when they're in space. They kind of jet around and grab onto things, and so it's not only that gravity is absent. That's not as big a deal, but the problem is that the objects, something is off about the ship's movement, so that things are floating around randomly, and there is you do not have yet the sensation of actually hurtling through space. The friction isn't enough yet, to actually have I don't know if that's why but everything is rammed up against a particular walls and ceilings and stuff in a particular direction, which is a very, very, very good indicator that the ship is going very fast in the other direction.